Lauren, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I am pumped. And for everyone listening today, it allows us to be reminded of what this is all about. So when Lauren first came on the recording, she's like, honestly, I don't feel well today. Like I'm low energy. And I was like, well, why didn't you just like reschedule? She's like, honestly, let's just get it done. And I want to ask you, it's like, at what point in time when we're sick, especially as women, I mean, we get pain once a month, every single month, and no one would know really. And you just kind of have to power through it. So, like, what's going through your head knowing like the kind of schedule you have this week and for the rest of the month?
Well, before I get into the question, I just want to say that something I used to do when I worked in an office was I would keep a heating pad on me. And when men would walk into the office and they would see that, they would just kind of be like, like I don't need that thing anymore. Like
They're so weird. They're so awkward.
that is one thing that I do miss about,
Mm.
maybe one of the only things I miss about working in an office. But okay, so to answer your question, I mean, I kind of posted about this on Instagram yesterday because I am gearing up for a flash sale next week,
Mhm.
and so of my course. And so that means that all this week I'm posting every day about different components of the course and things that people need to know so that the day that the
Mhm.
flash sale starts, they're like, okay, yeah, I have all the information I need. I'm ready to buy. And so, I'm balancing that with also a really heavy client workload right now. I've got, several websites that I'm building right now and, brands that I'm working on that are in, different phases of the process. And I mean, it really just comes down to like every day, every hour, every minute assessing like what's the most important thing right now. Can I power through? Can I get a little bit more work done? Do I need to take a break? Giving myself grace and working at different hours. Like on Tuesday, I'm typically most productive in the morning. So like I get up and I get going. And on Tuesday it was a bad morning. I woke up at 3:45, like couldn't get back to sleep. And so I took some medicine and I slept on the couch until 11 and then got up at 11, took a shower, did some work. Like, I think it's just kind of giving myself grace, being a little less rigid with my
Mm.
schedule, like being okay with not everything being perfect, but like there are still things that I've communicated to clients. Like I have 2 clients who are expecting things from me by the end of this week. And so, I mean,
We're at the end of the week.
I didn't necessarily say it would be Friday. That might mean that I might have to work on Saturday or Sunday and they'll get it over the weekend. But I think it's just kind of balancing like, what are those things that absolutely have to get done? And like, how can you motivate yourself? Like last night after dinner, I was like, gosh, I just want to like lay on the couch and, not do anything. And I was like, okay, I have 2 pages that I need to build for this website client. Like, what if I just like, can I sit down for an hour and like try to do it? And I got one done and like 60% of the second one done. I woke
Good.
up this morning and I felt a lot better about it. So that was my long-winded way of saying that like it it ebbs and glows.
It does. It does. I feel like we're synced up in the funniest way because I too was up at like 3:30 in the morning with cramps and pain. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And thinking like, okay, I need to wake up in 3 hours time, hit the gym, blah, blah, blah. Instead, I gave myself grace this morning. I took the medicine at like 3:30, went back to sleep for a few hours and slept for an extra two and like just kind of laid in bed for an extra 2 hours, skipped the gym today. Who cares? If I make that a habit every single day and keep giving myself that leeway and whatnot, yeah, then there's going to be consequences in my career and in what I accomplish, but it's not going to matter today. Everything's going to get done. If I started my day an hour or two later, it allows you, and I'm sure you can say the same, because I have a bit of a shorter day to get things done today. It's like, okay, what actually needs to get done? Because we can always do more. And when you run your own business, or even if you're just an overachiever, and you can work yourself till the end of the day, right until you hit the lights off to go to bed. My question to you is, what kind of hours do you work?
Yeah, I'm not afraid to say that I don't believe in working 40 hours a week and my goal is not to work 40 hours a week.
Mhm.
The past few weeks I've worked 50 plus hours a week. But
Yeah.
like I am a really efficient person. I do not ever tell people how long something takes me
Mm,
because literally in my own mind, I might think that something's going to take me 4 hours and I'll knock it out in like an hour and a half, and I'm
mm,
really happy with what I did. And so I believe that like charging by the hour penalizes me for working more efficiently.
mhm.
So this is what my typical day looks like. I wake up at 6, I make my coffee,
Mm,
I sit on my pink chair in my living room and I play Candy Crush and I listen to podcast for about an hour.
nice.
And then I tidy, the kitchen, maybe like start, some laundry, whatever, put some makeup on if necessary, not every day, fix the hair, whatever. And then I'm to my computer by like 7:30 or 8. I work from 8 to 11. I
Mhm.
take a lunch break from 11 to 12. I work from 12 to 2, and then me and my boyfriend go to the gym and work out. And when I say go to the gym and work out, a lot of times that means I like walk on the treadmill for 30
Nice.
minutes and
That's
catch up
great.
on, text messages or whatever, but it's just like a little something to do. And then come back to the house. If I have more work to do, I will either do like an hour and a half of work before I cook dinner, or I'll do an hour and a half or 2 hours after dinner. But some days that means my day ends at 2. Some days that means that at 2 I just take a break and then I work another 3 to 6 hours later in the day.
Do you find having a partner living with you and having that relationship in your life keeps you more efficient throughout the day?
Actually, no.
Oh, the opposite.
So, no, I mean,
Because it sounds like, because if you're living with someone, like, yeah, like you have someone that you're gonna eat dinner with. Where I live
mhm.
alone, I'm not in a relationship, so last night I started making dinner at 9 o'clock and then went to bed.
Yeah, we're pretty in sync. Like, we're 2 very similar people. Like,
I
we
like that.
like to get up and get going. We do like to eat dinner early. Like, yesterday, I tried cooking dinner at 4:45, and he's like, "People will make fun of us if they find
No,
out
but
that
if
we
you're
started
starting your
cooking
day
dinner
at 6:30, it's all the same.
in
Some
the
people are
4 o'clock
starting their day at
hour."
11.
So, I mean, I think sometimes, like, I just so r right now, like, the phase of life that we're in, like, his job sent him to grad school, so he is
Mm,
a full-time college student, and we are
and
in our
studying.
30s, so that is, like, a really rare thing, and his life is really flexible, and so for me, like, I'm just kinda taking advantage of this time that I get to, like, spend with him throughout the day because that won't be the norm once he begins the next phase of his career, after this phase that we're in right now. So yeah, sometimes I get a little distracted and like he'll come from class and I'm just like, hey, like,
Yeah, yeah.
let's
Let's hang out.
I missed you. And he's like, I did it. Like I saw you 2 hours ago.
It's because 'cause you're working alone, so it's like it's not like you're in an office where you can chit chat, like, next to the coffee machine with someone, like, you're eager for your partner to come home and, like, have that social interaction.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, he does say that he's like in awe of how I can like hold myself accountable to like
Mm,
getting up, going, but it wasn't always that
I
way.
was
Like
gonna
I
ask you
did
that.
struggle early in the pandemic, which also coincided with my business starting out and like not seeing results, not being as successful. And it's like having no motivation to get up and go because it's like, what am I even doing this for?
And I ask myself that all the time. So, how do you give yourself that answer? I know what I've been doing, and it's because if you're an ambitious person and can work every day and hold yourself accountable and you're crossing things off the to-do list at all times, do you ever wake up sometime and ask yourself, "Yeah, what is this all for? Like, why? Like, why am I holding myself accountable every single day?" Do you have that end goal in mind, like that North Star?
Well, I mean, right now it's money. Like I'm
Yeah, it's
working toward
you're motivated.
growing my business to make the money that I need to live the life that I want to live. And right now I'm seeing those results because I've put in the time and the effort and I've gotten to this place. But like prior to that, it was I had 0 metrics that validated the effort that I was putting in. And it was really hard. I mean, like, back prior life when I had like a real job, I worked in university admissions. And so like every day I could come to work and I could see yesterday we worked really hard on these things. And this morning I can see that that resulted in this many more students
Mhm.
applying for admission to this university, or this many more students who submitted their deposit saying that they're going to come, or this many more students who registered for a campus tour because of the things that we
Mm.
did. Like every day there were metrics to show that I did a good job or that I didn't. And then when I started in this, it was like I only had Instagram to go off of and like email metrics. And it was like, I mean, really debilitating because it
Yes.
was such a, I mean, it was a really crazy time in life. I mean, like I quit my job and I sold my house in January and February of 2020, like right before the pandemic. And then the pandemic happened. I was growing a business and I was living with my parents
Mm.
unintentionally. Like all these things kind of coincided at once. And it was like, yeah, it was really, really difficult.
At the beginning, when you're starting your business and growing it, what to you was considered a small win to at least keep you going? And then what were some of the big wins that you're like, "Ah, okay, this is working?"
It's, like, hard to say in
Mhm.
retrospect because I don't feel like I had any wins for a very, very long time, like
Define a long time, 6 months for the first year and a half, or
2.5 years.
how do you keep
Yeah.
going?
But it's also because I didn't really know what I was doing. Like,
Ah,
I quit my job and started a quote unquote business doing like 0 research. Like, I started out, I said I was gonna be a motivational speaker
mm,
and just did some kind of crazy ass back of the napkin math of like, oh yeah, if I do like this many gigs a month and I
mhm,
charge this for it, and then like, yeah, like I'm gonna sell my house, so I'll have like a little bit of like cushion to live on. Like, yeah, I'll probably spend like about this much on Airbnbs and like it was like the most wackadoodle, manic nonsense, crazy ass, like make this huge life changing decision
with
off of.
a quote unquote plan.
Yeah, but I'm pretty thankful for it because I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for the mental state that I was in and, like, just the absolute desire to need such a drastic change. Like, if I had not sold my house February 20th, I think was the closing date,
Wow.
2020, I would not have had the, pardon my French, balls to do it 3 weeks later when the world shut down.
I find as humans, we build that muscle of if I've gotten through that and I struggled through that and I was able to navigate it, I can do even harder things in the future.
Mhm.
So, and I'm sure that's how like you had no idea what was going to happen. There was so much uncertainty, like the amount that you changed throughout your the amount of times like you probably changed what you were focused on throughout those first 2 years. It's a lot.
Mhm.
At what point did you finally think, "Okay, this is what I'm gonna stick to. I'm loving this design stuff. I love helping people understand design better." At what point did that finally click that, "Okay, this path feels the most right?"
So I, like, can, like, see, like, very distinct, like, phases
Mm,
of, kind of this journey, and they really have coincided with, like, the years. So, like, year
mhm.
2020, it was like, "I'm gonna be a professional speaker," and that is what I was going for. And even once the pandemic happened, like, a lot of, 2020, I think we were all kind of in this mindset of, like, "I'm just waiting for this thing to be over so I can, like,
Then I'll make a
resume
decision.
the
Yeah.
plan," resume the plan. I had so many Google Sheets that I started over and over again of, like, okay, like, plan 2.0 and 3.0 and 4.0. And then in 2021, it kind of like the realization set in that that might not happen and that I maybe wasn't even that interested in that. And in 2021 is when I kind of started cobbling together several part-time jobs to make a full-time income.
Mhm,
And then it was at the end of 2021 that I was like, I didn't quit my job to do this. Like,
mhm.
I'm not happy. I'm not enjoying this. And so I started working with a career coach to figure out, like, what is the thing that I truly want to do? And I went to her and I was like, look, I want to help people. I want to enjoy what I'm doing. And I want like flexibility. Like, flexibility is the most important thing to me. And that's when, she kind of like helped me realize, like, hey, like this design thing, like this is like, circles everything that you're doing. Like, why isn't like this the focus of what you want to do? And for me, it was like a huge imposter syndrome thing. Like,
Mm.
I didn't have a degree in graphic design.
Uh,
My degree is in communication, even though I had been teaching design at a flagship university for years and had taught corporate workshops and, all these things. But like in my head, it was like, no, like
mm,
I can't call myself a designer. Like, I don't have a degree in graphic design. And like, I wouldn't even say that like I design websites or I do branding, but like people would come to me and they would be like, hey, can you do my website or can you do my branding? I'd be like, yeah, like I'll do it just for you. But like, don't like tell anyone because like I'm not like a designer. And then like
they're,
I
like,
really
trying to
had to,
promote you and trying to use their services. You're like,
yes.
"Please don't."
Yes, it would be yeah, I mean, like, I can't even think of an analogy. It would be like if Kim Kardashian, like, refused to take a picture and people were like, "Please take a
"Please let
selfie of
us."
yourself," you know?
Mhm.
And so, yeah, so it really was like a huge, like, imposter syndrome thing to be able to say, "No, like, I have been doing this for, like, over a decade and I'm good at it." And, like, I not only am I good at it, but, like, I can talk about it in a way that's not, like, putting people down or making them
Mm,
feel like, "Oh, you're an idiot because you went to Canva and you created your own logo." No, like, that's the reality for most people.
mhm,
Now you're at the next phase of your business and you're ready for a more professional logo. Okay,
mhm.
I'm here to help and I'm not gonna make you feel bad about that.
Yeah, good point, because it's so funny to me how you weren't ready to call yourself a designer, because when you and I first got acquainted, I looked at your website and looked at all the merchandise you were designing, and I'm like, "Stunning. Love it." Like,
Mhm,
very like, exactly my kind of aesthetic. And I was shocked that, like, you weren't helping others, like, shocked. But
mhm,
I think what's really cool about what you're doing now, you're selling courses on how to help people design it themselves, right?
mhm. Yeah. Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
I have my course, it's called Create with Confidence, and so it is, like, the ultimate design course for non-designers, and that is, like the thing is that, not everybody wants to be a designer, but they do have to design. That's a
Mm,
reality of the world that we live in, and whether you're a 9 to 5er or a business owner or a freelancer, like, design is a part of what you have to do, and the difference between good design and bad design is not just looking good, but it's communicating the right thing to the right person, attracting that person, getting them to take action, and, like, that's what I teach in my course.
I'm, redesigning my real estate website as we speak. I was working on it late last night, and I'm kind of thinking about switching up my branding colors. And I come from a marketing background, not like the aesthetic style of marketing, but more like the sales and partnership style marketing. But I still have, I would say, an eye for it. I know like what looks
Mhm,
good. And I'm finding a hard time, like, repicking colors. I really want to do, like, if you see the aesthetic of my house right now, like, I wanna bring in some more greens and feel like it's as if you went into a staged home. I wanna feel like that colors. Whereas right now I have kind of like the goldy orange color and, like, black, and it feels like almost too, like, GQ, like that their logo. And it's just like it feels a little harsher than I am. I feel like my vibe is a little bit more white and airy. What do you recommend to people when, like, they're just like, a lot of times people start with, like, the branding colors. What colors do
yeah,
I want? What do you recommend?
mhm. So what I do in, my course, my done for you work that I do, I tell the person or tell my client, okay, so I want you to pick 5 words that you would want your ideal person to use to
Mm,
describe your brand when they look at it, not what it is currently, but what you want them to use. And then we're going to use those 5 words to pick 6 to 8 colors, 2 to 3 fonts, the shapes that we're going to work with, because all of those things communicate something.
mhm,
White and black communicate something versus pink and purple. A straight line communicates something different than a squiggly line. Same
mhm,
with, angled shapes versus circles and things like
mhm,
that. Centered alignment versus left alignment. Like all of those things communicate different things. And so if we start with this foundation of what are we trying to communicate to our ideal person, and then we can kind of create that brand playbook, and then we don't have to make design decisions over and over and over again every
mm.
time we're trying to create a graphic or, do something.
But I love what you said about the words. Like, that's a way of thinking about this that I never thought of before, personally.
Mhm.
I wanna ask you about, therapy.
Yeah.
Did you say you started during all of this in the last few years or you started recently?
I started prior to this. I think I started probably in like 2017 or 2018.
Okay.
And so for me, like I was raised in like the type of family and mindset that like you go to therapy if someone dies, if you're
Mhm.
going through a divorce,
Mhm.
or if you have like wartime PTSD. Like just being a little unhappy, you're being dramatic, like you need to get over it. And so that was a huge mental block for me in even deciding to go to therapy. I was like embarrassed about
Mhm.
saying it. I mean, like it's crazy to say, but like back in 2017, like people were not going to therapy. Like I was like revolutionary in my friend group because like I was going. And initially, the only reason that I was going, and this is really frank, and I hope that people that I know don't listen to this, was because I didn't wanna have sex with my boyfriend at the time,
Mhm.
and had no idea that that was connected to I mean, it just, like, mushroomed into, like, literally, like, every aspect of my life was, like, something that needed to be looked at, like, not just my relationship, which wasn't a good fit, which I didn't know, but friendships, my job, my family relationships, like the way that I viewed myself. I mean, it was literally like this pinhole in a balloon that needed to like completely explode the
Mhm.
entire balloon. And it's crazy. And I went to therapy for like 5 years.
Wow. At what point of that relationship did you feel like something was wrong? Like, did you say, "Oh, like, maybe it's just a me thing and maybe it's not as big as I think it is?"
So me and that guy ended up dating for 3 years and I started going to therapy like a year and a half in.
Mhm.
And I mean, this is really personal, but like I don't mind sharing because I
Yeah,
think
up to
that
you.
it's helpful for people to like hear stuff like this. So I had to have surgery on my cervix because of precancerous
Oh, wow.
HPV. And I was raised going to Catholic school in a Catholic family, Catholic household. And so, like, my views about sex were like, sex is bad, you are dirty if you have sex. And so, therefore, because you had to have this surgery, you're a dirty, bad person and like you deserve this thing that's happened to you. And the surgery itself was like an incredibly traumatic experience. Like, I did not have the skills or the wherewithal to know, like, how to advocate for myself in that situation. Like, the doctor that I had very much just kinda treated me like I was just, like, young, dumb, and stupid, and pretty much lied to me about, like, what was going to take place. Like, the way
Oh.
he described it to me was that it was going to be just, like, a quick procedure in the doctor's office and that they were gonna put me out with, like, a gas mask, like, he literally said, like, when you had your wisdom teeth taken out. And in reality, I mean, it was full-blown surgery, like, the gown, an IV, the hair mask, like, it was a really traumatic thing, and, like, it was, like, on a Friday at, like, noon, and so, literally, I'm strapped down to a surgery table, like, my arms
Mhm.
out, and my legs are up in these, stirrups, and I can feel, like, air on all my parts downstairs. Like, I'm well aware that I am just completely exposed, and all of these people, like, the nurses and all the people, they're waiting for the doctor to show up, and they're just, like, chit-chatting about, like, their weekend plans, "Oh, what you doing this weekend?" And I'm just, like, hysterically crying because this is, like, not at all what I expected. I am so scared about, like, what's about to happen. I don't know. And the doctor comes in and he's just like, it's okay, you'll be fine." And then, like, the next thing I know, I woke up and it was over. And they said, "Oh, you're gonna bleed for 2, maybe 4 weeks." I bled for 2 months, like, having to wear, like, massive pads and all this
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So
You don't
this
feel
is,
sexy.
like, way more. So I kinda went through that, and then it was like, well, like, I never wanna have sex again. Like, if this is what
Yeah.
happened to me, my relationship with sex, like, completely changed. I felt so, like, disgusted by myself and, like,
Mhm.
because I let this thing happen to me and I didn't feel sexy. I didn't, any of that. So like that was like a huge piece of, something that I had to work through. But then also like the relationship was not a fit and I just didn't know it. Like I'd never been in a relationship longer than like 5 months. And
Mm,
so I just thought that like this is what relationships were like. And like I saw my parents bicker and scream at each other and then say, "Oh, but we love each other." And so I was like, "Okay, well, like that's what relationships are like." And like I didn't get that like, no, this just wasn't a fit. And like it's okay to like walk away from someone. Like I was so afraid to end it because I was so embarrassed that I had told so many people we were gonna get married and this was my person and blah blah blah. And it's like, no, like it's okay to like it's not a fit, like, you're growing. I mean, we started dating when I was, like, 25, like, I didn't know
yeah.
myself and, like, know what I wanted, and yeah, so that was, like that was a long answer, but
No,
that
that
was,
was
like,
a great.
really, like, the beginning of me realizing, like, this whole reality that had been built for me was not, like, the reality that I wanted to live in, I guess.
What else did you unravel within therapy, or was there any like, what were the main connecting points or any themes that you saw just, like, overall in every aspect of your life? Because I only just started therapy the end of January. I've only been, like, 2 or 3 times, and as I when I'm done the session and, like, in the weeks afterwards, I'm starting to reflect. I'm like, I see some overarching themes here." For me, it's been hard to kind of lift the hood of the car and really start looking under, personally.
Mhm.
Like, there is a lot of my areas where I genuinely think, like, I genuinely don't think I was the problem in that situation. We'll find out, but I genuinely don't think, but there obviously has to be some things that I'm causing to make this result happen. So was there any overarching themes that you've seen?
I mean, I think just like
Mm,
empathy for myself, empathy for other people. Like my family very much like had the mindset growing up that like you're either good or you're bad. You either
mm,
like made a good decision or you're stupid. Like there was never any
gray.
gray area.
Mm,
And I think that I really learned to like be okay with the gray and like, it doesn't have to be like you're pure or you're a
mm.
slut, you're happy or you're sad. Like it's okay that like there can be like some wiggle room there. I think that was like a big overarching thing that I learned.
Mm. What's the difference within your current relationship? How did you like, at what point did you notice, this feels like a better fit. This is more right. Because for me, it's like when I'm in a better relationship or a better fit, it's only then when I see how the previous relationship was not the right fit.
Well, I think that we just like each other. Like I mean,
Step one.
I mean I just like him. Like I look at him and
It's
like
just the adoration.
I think he's cute. I have more like empathy for him. Like if he does something like I remember one time like my ex like left the stove on and now he was like really irresponsible and he did shit like that all the time
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was just so mad at him and I was just like you could have burned the house down like how fucking stupid are you,
Mm,
And then like if my current boyfriend does something like it's like, "Oh babe, like hey, did you know that you left the house and you left
mhm,
the fireplace on?" Like he's like, "Oh, man." I'm like, "I know. You had a rough day." Like, I think I
mm.
just probably operate from a place of more empathy
And
because
love.
yeah, but also I think I'm not afraid to, like, communicate what I need or what I'm feeling, or I lacked that
Mm,
capacity before, and I don't think that had I known myself better, like, I don't think that my relationship with the prior person would have lasted longer than probably a few months because we just,
wow.
like, weren't a fit, weren't compatible, but, I mean, that's, like, life, you learn those things.
I relate to that 100%. I saw a TikTok, I think it was this morning, actually, 4 reasons when you will know it's the one, and I was like, "Okay, here we go." But the reasons were, I feel like, very accurate, and one of them was you want to be a better person because of this person. Like they
Mhm.
challenge you to be better. Like all of a sudden you're not like, oh, like I'm in a relationship, like I don't need to care about my looks or I don't need to care about like challenging myself. They make you want to be better. Do you feel that?
I actually don't believe in the one,
Ah, okay. Neither do
because
I, by the way.
I think that's, like, a lot of pressure to, like,
Yeah, yeah.
find this
Or
person. It's
maybe
like
when you know someone's a good fit for you.
right, yeah. I mean, I think that there's just a desire to, like, continuously not, like, wanna please, 'cause I feel like that's so, like, subservient to
Mm,
say, like, about women, but I think it's just, like, a desire to, like, continue to, like, connect, spend time together, like, a genuine interest in
mm.
how was your day? I mean, when I was saying that, we go to the gym in the afternoons, like, we have, like, a gym in our neighborhood that we walk to, and it's, like, a 5-minute walk, and so it's just, like, literally, it's, like, the only time, even though we live together and don't interact with a lot of people, we're just like, "How was your day? Like, what did you do?" And it's just like a genuine interest to, like, to be and connect, and to
It
care
sounds
about
so
each other.
simple, but it's like
Yeah.
that is the difference because when you think back to previous relationships, yeah, there's some relationships I've had that I'm like, "Mm, yeah, like if I didn't hear from them for a couple days, I don't know if I would have been bothered, you know?
Yeah.
But there's others where, yeah, you have that like the schoolgirl crush, the adoration, and it doesn't die. And it's
Mhm.
cute. Like I think
Yeah.
it's really admirable.
Yeah.
I wanna ask you a little bit more about, like, your business and, like, the changes you've made from, like, working for someone else to working for yourself now. Are you still a one-woman show?
So in my business, I have a marketing VA,
Nice.
and I am hoping to hire one or two junior designers soon to help
Nice.
with some of the, build outs and work and things like that. But I am on a part-time contract with an ed tech company that has existed since January of 2020. And so that's really what's kind of paid the bills up until the last, like, 6 months or so.
The struggle that I have recently is whether or not I want to hire anyone. And I've thought about VAs and whatnot, but for me, it's like in my real estate business, what I need them to help with, it's almost like I need them to almost be licensed. Like some of the stuff that I would prefer to have help with. What do you get your marketing VA to do?
So a lot of it is repurposing content. So
Okay.
because of I'm a design educator, like, I cannot trust at this point someone else to create the content originally. Like, I need to be the one that's, like, saying, "No, these are gonna be the 3 quick tips," and I need to create what it looks like, and, like, that it would be like if you were a chef and you were allowing someone else to choose the menu,
Yeah. Hell
like,
no.
that needs to be the thing that I do. But she'll take an Instagram reel and she'll turn it into a blog post and Pinterest pins and, the weekly email because it's content that already exists and all she
Mhm.
has to do is just repurpose it for other platforms. She also does a lot of copywriting for me. So if I have like a new offer, she'll kind of help me put together a sales page. And that's kind of like in a pinch. Sometimes, like,
Mhm.
I have a copywriter that I work with, and I would love if I could afford for her to do
Mm.
all of that, but it's like, sometimes it's kind of like a give and take of what can I just kinda eke by with, and then what's, like, the big shiny thing that I need the expensive copywriter to do.
Did you have trouble at the beginning of letting go and trusting someone to maybe not do it as well as you can, but good enough to save you the time? Because that's what I keep going back and forth on.
Yeah, so, like, right now, I'm in a season of business where I am booked up months in advance, and I've
Good.
never been
Congrats.
that way before, and it's fabulous on the one hand, but then also it's like I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, what if I got hit by a bus? Like, there's no one else that could do it. Like, how would my
Mm,
boyfriend know to refund these people their money? And so I did kind of get to a point a couple weeks ago where, like, I wasn't posting on social as much as I needed to because I was asking my VA to write some social copy and I wasn't crazy about it. So then I would end up not posting it.
mm.
And I just kind of got to this point where I was like, something is better than nothing. Like, I need to just kind of push myself to just let it be what she writes, even if it's like 80% of the way there, because
Mhm.
I need to have more of a presence. Like I was just kind of like non-existent on social, because of that. And so we have like a weekly meeting on Mondays. And so that means that on Sunday, I spend a little time going through some of the things that she's prepared. And I record a video of myself going through it where I give feedback on all of the things so that then in the meeting on Monday, we can just kind of talk through her questions instead of
Mhm.
like, okay, here's feedback on all these things. And,
Yeah.
she's like hearing it for the first time. Like, I think it means me being a little bit more thorough and prepared in advance for her, if that makes sense.
So it's been a big learning for you going through
Yeah, but
this.
I'm pretty fortunate that, like, throughout my career, I have had a lot of people report to me. So, like, when I started my first job at 22, I had 7 people reporting to
Wow.
me, and some of them were older than me, obviously,
Mhm.
and that was, like, a huge learning experience. Like, obviously, I did not handle a lot of those situations well, but I learned a lot of really valuable lessons about like delegating and how people learn in different ways. So, like, I always, when I give someone a task, like, I try to write it out. I record myself doing it so that you can like follow the instructions or you can watch the video. And then, like, so I'm going to say, okay, watch me do it. And then I want to watch you do it. And then I'm going to let you do it on your own. And I'm going to see it right before we hit publish. That's kind of like my 3-step
Yeah,
approach for, training someone.
that's a great approach. I'm learning so much for myself. One last point on that, where did you find your VA or how did you find her?
So through this group associated with Michaela Quinn, so
Okay,
Micala Quinn, she has a course for VAs and she also has a Facebook group. Think you go to her website and you submit a form and then she posted in the group that only
cool,
VAs who have taken her course are allowed to be in and then they
cool.
contact you directly and I got a lot of really good submissions. Also something that I did was I did like a sample assignment where it was like, "Hey, here are like 2 things that you'll likely do." So one was like repurposing a blog post and one was transcribing video. And
Okay.
so I wrote out instructions for what I need you to do. I recorded a video of myself doing it. And then I said like, "This is how I'm going to evaluate you on this sample assignment." And for like the transcribing video, it was literally like following directions, attention to detail,
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
one of repurposing the blog post, it was like, I don't care about you capturing my voice as much. I just want to see like how do you create content? Like how do you write? Like what's like,
Mm.
your grammatical skills, stuff like that. And then I said, I expect that it'll take I think it was like 4 hours and the rate is 20 an hour. So I'm just gonna pay you, $80 for this. And yeah, it worked out.
I am so impressed by how thorough you are with giving instructions and really helping someone get prepared. It's bringing back all the memories of having managers and people like above me just expect me to know exactly what's in their head and then being kind of annoyed that it's not done exactly the way they want it. There's so many employees and teammates that are very self-starter and you don't have to train them, but the average person, it's easier if you're so thorough and explain exactly what the expectations are. And I'm sure you can see that in the quality of work that you get back.
Yeah. Well, I'm like a big believer in like training and onboarding is like a two-person job.
Mhm.
Like the employee cannot just expect to have like everything handed to them, but like the supervisor also cannot expect to just like give the employee like a little bit and you know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
I tell people like I want you to ask questions. Like one of the first assignments that I give to every employee of mine is spend an hour reading every single external facing thing that I have, like my
Mm,
website, my Instagram, any files that I've shared with you, and write down every question that comes to mind.
smart.
Because, like, I want them to look at stuff and be like, how come your course doesn't say this? Or like, I thought that it would do this or like, how come you don't post this type of content on
Mm,
Instagram? Like, I want their wheels to start turning in that way. And also, like, understand that I want you to ask questions. By you asking questions, that helps me understand where my blind spots are or what I've not communicated to you. And also, it's like back to the gray area thing.
mm,
Every person is not perfect. Like,
no.
when my VA started working for me, she told me that one of the things she loved about me was, like, how organized and thorough I was, but more recently, I'm really busy and, like, I've not been giving her the clearest direction, and we've had a few, like, miscommunications, and, like, I'll just message her and be like, "Hey, dude, like, I know that you liked that I was organized and thorough, like, I'm sorry that I'm not that way right now," and she's like, "No, it's okay, like, you're going through growth right now," and I mean, if she's smart, she also realizes that, like, by me growing my business, that means that I'm making money so that I can continue to afford to pay her. So it's just
Exactly.
kind of like a necessary evil. If it was, like,
Yeah.
all perfect and dandy and I had all the time in the world, then,
And we're
like,
stagnant.
I'd be going broke.
Yeah, 100%. Last question or two for you. The first one is, after everything we've talked about, if someone was to ask you, like, give me some advice over the past 3 years, like, what would you say to them?
This is so absolutely not comforting when you're going through something, but, like, literally, it just takes time. I was recently listening to a podcast and one of the girls is going through a divorce and she was like, "Look, I get that, like, grief takes time, but, like, how can we speed this grief thing up?" But it just
Let's
literally
go.
everything takes time. Like, my business, I needed 3 years to try this, to try that, to figure it out. It took time, like, my self-development journey, like, it wasn't gonna all be fixed in, one therapy session and the snap of a finger. It took about 5 years. Like, it takes time. I was actually recently talking to someone about this with therapy, was that, like, because of my mindset about therapy, how I said that I thought that it was, like, only to, like, fix a problem, that when I first started going, I would go just long enough till I felt that, like, that problem was fixed, and then I would stop going, and then I would get to a rough spot and feel like I had failed because I wanted to go again. So I kinda went through this, like, up and down of, like, "Oh, like, I have to go back to therapy, I suck," whatever. And then I got to this point where I was like, "Okay, no matter what, I'm going to schedule an appointment every month just 'cause."
Mm,
Something might come up, whatever. Well, then I moved in August across the country from Mississippi to Oregon, and you can't take your therapist with you because they're
mhm.
only licensed in certain states. And so
All right.
initially, I said that I was going to get a new therapist here. But, like, as time went on, I kind of realized, like, hey, I have learned a lot about, like, how to self-soothe and, like, things that I need to say to myself to, like, get myself through hard times. And, like, I actually have a lot of kind of coping skills, I guess, that I've learned. And I think I'm kinda good for a while, like, unless something serious happens, and then I would be fine to go again, but it's also, like, I no longer see that as a failure, I see it as more kind of like tune up and maintenance.
Mm, good point. Good point. Last but not least, where can people find you? And we've talked about your courses and everything you do in business, but feel free to plug it again.
Yeah. So on Instagram, I am felter.unfiltered. So you can see lots of easy design tips and all that good stuff. If you are a 9 to 5 professional or business owner, freelancer, and design is ever part of your to do list, my course is Create with Confidence. It's the ultimate design course for non designers. I mean, really lays a fabulous foundation for, like, okay, these are the things that I need to do to make my stuff look better, attract the right person, get them to take action. And then if you're a business owner and you're not in the DIY phase and you want someone to just do it
Mhm.
for you, I have a brand refresh and custom websites, and I typically book up several months in advance. So if you're
Mhm.
interested, let's connect as soon as possible.
Lauren, thank you so much for this conversation. When we chatted about recording, I was so excited because a lot of the times people our age and especially just like millennials think our problems aren't big enough to talk about. And we say to ourselves, just got like the everyday stuff, the job changes, the boyfriend troubles, like moving. And it's like, no, those are big things as well. And we forget that because it's not a big thing, it's not worth talking about. But it's sometimes these are the conversations that people want to hear. So thank you so much for being open. I know it probably pushed you a little bit to be that vulnerable, but I'm glad I was able to give you the space to do that. So again, thank you so much.
Yeah, I think that in some ways, like gratitude and positivity have kind of cursed us a little bit because it
Mm,
makes us feel bad about our discomfort or our unhappiness. And we're like, yeah, like I'm unhappy, but like this other person, like they have it so much worse. Or like, yeah, like my surgery was bad, but like somebody else had cancer. And it's like pain is pain, unhappiness is unhappiness, discomfort is discomfort. Like if you're not feeling it, like, you deserve to feel it. Like, you
mhm,
deserve to, like, figure it out, to find that path, that happiness. Like, never feel shame or like you're being, like, ungrateful or unappreciative because you're unhappy about something. Like, you don't have to just be positive or I mean, I remember being a kid and, like, being made fun of for having a mustache, which is something that I bring up all the time, and, like, it has literally scarred me to this day, and I remember, like, my mom was just like, "Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me," and it's like,
no, it's the
nah,
opposite.
that's not comforting, like, those little, like, platitudes and whatever, it's like, no, like, if you're unhappy or you're uncomfortable, like, you're allowed to feel your feelings, you're allowed to work through it, and, like, you don't have to feel bad about that just because somebody has it worse than you.
I know, trust me, it's bringing me back to all of my childhood memories of just, like, toughen up, like, there's someone else that has it way worse than you, and, yep, that is gonna cost me in therapy, that's for sure. Anyways, thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, thanks for having me.